Welcome back to the Contacts Coaching Podcast. We are joined today by Rick Jackson, who is the athletic director, also teaches bio on the side at Madison High School in Greater San Diego, the Warhawks. Coach, thanks for being here today. Looking forward to chatting.
Appreciate you having me.
All right, 107-269. Take us through the background. Let us know how
Yeah.
you got to where you are now, 26 years in at the same school. What came before?
Yeah. Before I got here, I got into coaching out of high school. I coached at Scripps Ranch just down the road for 5 or 6 years. Most people that went to college as long as me are doctors. So I enjoyed my time in college, but I coached. And that is what kind of got me into wanting to teach. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I loved coaching. And so for me, it was about how I can be around this a little bit longer. I started football as my passion. I coached football at Scripps Ranch. I coached baseball at Scripps Ranch. Coached girls basketball at Scripps Ranch. And then I was lucky enough where my vice principal at Scripps Ranch was the principal here at Madison. So I was doing my student teaching at Scripps. They needed someone for a long-term sub. It worked out. They waived some of my student teaching, got me in here, and then transitioned. So when I got here, I started in special education. I was the ESL teacher for a few years, and I settled in as a biology teacher. So I teach biology still. And then coaching wise, when I came here, they just threw the head track job at me right away. So I got that. I originally came in to be the head football coach, but one of the gentlemen who came in with me was more experienced and had head coaching background. So it worked out really well. One of my mentors. So he was the head coach for the first 4 years I was here. And then I took over and was the head coach for 21 years. This is my first year not coaching football. It's been a pretty good run. I love this place. And I've been the AD now. This is my 20th year as athletic director here. So it's been a good run. It's become a second family for me.
Love that. That's awesome. I got some clarifying questions if you don't mind. Before we started recording, I've been a head basketball coach, head track coach, head football coach. How many years of those 21 was there crossover where you were doing both jobs at once?
Yeah, I want to say I was track and football for probably 14, 15, somewhere in there. Yeah, track's a great complement to football.
Yep.
I found it was a great compliment. And then I just had some coaches some ex-players that ended up coaching with me, and I had a great coach that was on staff, and it was a great opportunity for me to step away from track as my kids got a little bit older. I have two boys that are in college, and they both play baseball at San Diego State. So it was an opportunity for me to kind of step away, get a little bit of time, and ultimately that's one of the things and one of the reasons why I stepped down from football too, just to give a little more time back to my family. But yeah, it was about 15, probably 14, 15 years, somewhere in there.
So both the boys grew up in San Diego, are now playing baseball at San Diego State or finishing their career. Talk a little bit about what that's right as a guy that for 26 years has been cultivating and caretaking others' kids to now getting a chance to watch your own once they've gone through the system and beyond.
For me, it was great. It was the best of both worlds. My wife and I, we got married like literally that summer before I got the long-term sub job. So she's been with me the whole way and super supportive. We don't live in this area, but the boys decided to come to Madison. So that was great. And now it's fun. So I was able to coach them. They were 3-sport athletes. They played football, basketball, baseball. And it's great now. They have the one sport, obviously, but it's great to be able to just go and watch and just be a dad and sit in the stands and just enjoy and soak that in, because I know how fast it's went, right? And that time is limited. We have a junior and a freshman. So I know those years are limited. So it's really been special. They've been along with me for the ride. Like we won a state championship in 16. I just told my wife that I was taking the boys with me. And so they got on the bus. They did everything with us. I think they were 10 and 12. So they've really been through, like they were Madison through and through. So it worked out really well for them.
All right, so we're going to tap right into my soapbox right off the bat here because of how you described what your boys do. 3-sport athletes, football, basketball, baseball, and they're college athletes. In a world that would try to have you believe something else, specifically that you should not be a multi-sport athlete. And I want you to detach a little bit from your football persona because for the most part, those are the coaches who most embrace the reality of what being a multi-sport athlete can do for you, although 7-on-7 is trying to trick some of them now. How do you compartmentalize? How do you frame? How do you offer wisdom to others that would try to convince your athletes to do something else? Youth Sports Industrial Complex is a $17 billion business that is trying to get paid. And as such, they have basically convinced the world that specialization is the path. But yet here you are with two Division I athletes who did it the old-fashioned way. So I would love to hear your opinion, your take, how you educate, what the pushback has been, how you continue to champion that when it's not popular.
I think one, I think it's about keeping it interesting for kids, right? Because 75% of kids stop playing sports by the age of 13. And why is that? Because they're burnt out, they're not having fun. Parents are over the top, parents are pushing them, they're doing club the whole way. And my kids did do club, but we obviously made sure that they had time. My kids played flag football, they played indoor soccer. Like they did whatever they wanted to do. Because I think that at the end of the day, one, they're baseball players now, but if they were swinging a bat and throwing a ball like 12 months a year, their arms would be falling off. The one thing that I found is they're really fresh still. Like there is times where it's been a little slower getting the bat going once they kind of get back into it. But that cross training, doing other sports, using other muscles, just being athletic in space, like with basketball and flag football, I think it's been really good for them. I think that the specialization, I'm going to say, follow the money, right? Like you hit it on the head. Like people are trying to make money. At the end of the day, I want you to come play for me, and I want you to keep doing this for 10 months because I'm getting that monthly check. I'm getting that tournament check. You're paying for me to go stay at this hotel, that hotel. And I think that unfortunately, parents are buying into that a little bit more these days for whatever reason. The one thing that I'll go back, like our high school baseball coach did more and does more for our kids than any club coaches we ever had. And I really like our club coaches and stuff, but if kids are good enough to go on and play, they're going to be seen. Like parents just unfortunately they sometimes drink the Kool-Aid, and the kids drink the Kool-Aid, don't really maybe understand what it truly takes to play at the next level. But I think more importantly than that, they forget why they're doing it. You're doing it because you like doing it. Like you're having fun doing it. And it's become so transactional. And that's a real negative. It's got to be about relationships. It's got to be about culture. It's got to be about enjoyment. And then with that, obviously, the rest of it will come if you're good enough. At the end of the day, my wife and I and my kids, we went on all kinds of trips. Like we were talking about COVID before this. Like when COVID hit, we were in Arizona every weekend, like between the two of them playing baseball, doing something. So we've had great trips, Vegas trips, Georgia trips, like all kinds of trips. And for our family, we just made that as like a part of like what we were. And that was our vacation time because they enjoyed it. It didn't burn them out. Obviously, there's stress involved with it, but I just think, man, you got to give back. So we have so many kids, and I see it in high school now that just aren't playing because maybe they see the big picture. Maybe they're not D1 football players or baseball or basketball players or whatever. They see that, and then all of a sudden they stop wanting to play because of that. And then so it's hard to find that athlete that's willing to do all of the things necessary to play at that next level, at an elite level, going to school, being on time, obviously lifting and running and taking care of their bodies, and really just at the end of the day, being good enough to play. Get back to having fun, man, get back to enjoyment and try to bring this culture back and get this transactional stuff out because that's killing sports right now.
For sure. And you said you're a smaller school. How many students?
We are about 750.
Okay, and we're 500. So similarly, like I need my best kids to play everything.
Right.
How do you work with your coaches? Because this is where I think it gets twisted as well, where they expect these kids to be with them year round because they might feel they're falling behind. But how do you work with your coaches to get them on message where it's like, no, we're not doing that. This guy needs to go do X.
We build the culture from the very beginning, understanding that we have to share our athletes. Now, we have some coaches that try to maybe be on the under and try to hold on to their kids a little bit more. But they know every coach that's here, except for one, I hired. So they know the situation. Our basketball and our baseball coach have been here the longest, other than me. So in the interview process, we make it very clear. My VP of athletics has been here since I've been here also. So we're on the same page. We have to share our athletes. If that's not going to work for you, then this probably isn't the spot for you. So we just make it known from the very beginning what the expectation is. And obviously, there's times within the year that some sports are going to need, obviously, in season, like you're focused on that sport. And depending on the coach, like I was as the football coach, I didn't want my kids playing basketball during that time. I just didn't want them to take a chance, including my own kids. They could go shoot, they could do that, but I didn't want them running. I didn't want them playing where they're going
And this
to,
is specifically the month of November when you're still playing football and
yeah,
basketball is starting, right? The
no,
crossover period.
or like when they're playing fall ball, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like they're doing off season stuff.
yeah.
So like stuff like that. So I understand limiting it at certain times. There's more inherent risks for certain things, but man, my youngest kid, he broke his arm in baseball. So you can get hurt doing anything, but you just try to eliminate maybe some of the inherent risk that's in there and work with each other. And what's really important, where do we really need them? The communication part is important, right? Coach to coach, player to coach. I'm not going to say as much parent to coach because I really do believe in high school, like kids need to advocate for themselves and talk to coaches.
100%.
But there is a time where parents maybe have to have that conversation also, just so everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, no doubt. No, I think that's important. And I guess my follow-up becomes for schools like us, it's a little bit easier because it's, if you don't play this, we're not going to even be competitive. We need you to do this. And there's a feeling of pride for the school and doing things for others that I think to a certain degree allows them to use that as an excuse to tell their other coaches, hey, I got to do this. Even though they want to, it like gives them a little bit more backing. And you, in your section, big section, there's some large schools down there, and you have colleagues that are probably in running things there. Is it transferable to the big school in this era when you have 3,000 kids there, and if you're not at baseball all the time, you can't even make the roster? So, what are your thoughts on that and how bigger schools could adopt the approach that we use?
Yeah, I think it's a lot harder. I'm gonna be honest. I think that's one of the reasons that I really feel it was good for my kids to come here because they may have been pigeonholed if they went to a different school where maybe that didn't lend itself as well to play multiple sports. Because I'm not naive where I think all people look at it the way I do because they don't. So yeah, I think it's tough. It's what we've allowed, right? And we're in San Diego, so you can play everything all year round. Like there's no downtime except for the 2 weeks that we have to have. Yeah, I think it's unfortunate, and I think the more the hiring practices play into that because we went away from hiring teachers and it's went away from education-based athletics, which I truly believe in, and it's went more to the club model and it's went more to doing everything outside and really claiming kids almost. And so once again, I think that's a negative on our system right now. I remember when began here at Madison, we had 13 football coaches that were on campus. Like now with me not coaching football, we have one. So like before that, it was two. It was me and my offensive coordinator. My offensive coordinator is now the head football coach. So it's just changed. It's changed a lot, and the priorities have been a little bit mixed up. And I think, unfortunately, that's played a little bit of a negative part of sometimes what on campuses also.
For sure. No, and all those things factor in. It just is where my biggest pushback in dealing with the modern athlete parent club situation is just how do we message against the norm, which we both know to not be real. And it is in the perspective of whoever is receiving it. But it's, can we ask some questions before we land on these decisions? Thankfully, I'm in a community that's receptive to that, but it'd be hard if it wasn't, just because I don't believe in that model, similar to you. Long time since you've been a first time head coach, clearly the same as the first time AD, but I am going to ask you to get into the time machine and try to transport yourself back to when you took over for the first time as that track and field coach. And then 4 years later, when you took over as the football coach, what are some of the things, even though you had a background in sport, you've been an assistant for a long time, you felt ready, that you realized right away, like you needed to figure out? It was like, oh, damn, okay, this is new. And I know it's a long time ago and you probably don't have beginner's mind anymore, but I'm trying to always put some nuggets out there for people that, hey, you want to be thinking about these things as you step into these roles and you move over to proverbial 18 inches.
Track for me was brand new. I never had coached track, but there was a need for it. I think between our boys and girls, there was maybe 15 athletes at that time, and our school was much bigger. We had 1,200 kids, and so when I did take over, like the one thing for me was organization. like you have to be organized, right? Because track, there's so many moving parts. And so just the organization, being consistent and just really being available. I was obviously a lot different coach back then. I was the defensive coordinator. I had responsibilities, but I wasn't running the program. So I was a little bit, I had a lot of kids that came back and played for me, and they tell me how much I've changed, how soft I've gotten.
We all have, coach. We all have.
Right. But yeah, really it was that organizational part is developing and figuring out. I was at that time, I was probably a little bit more like I didn't accept if you're not going to be, I didn't accept the excuses. I didn't have a lot of empathy in regards to that. I expect you to be fully committed, and there's really not a lot that gets in the way of that. So obviously, like over the years, I built empathy in regards to different circumstances and different things that kids are going through while still holding a hard line and still holding them accountable. So I would think that would be like the number one thing is just, man, the organization, and then that transition obviously into being the head football coach, which then a couple
Wait,
years.
before you go there, can
Okay.
you drill down for me on what organization looks like as a track and field coach? And I'm curious because my track coach has been the coach for 15 years. I don't really have to do anything. And he's on the back nine here. And so I'm curious, like having done that, what does a well-polished machine look like in track and field?
Man, I don't know what a well-polished machine looks like. I could tell you organization for me was like you have 13, 14 events. It's about keeping track of who belongs where, the different combinations, making sure that we have coaches that are in the areas where kids are, right? So someone's not out throwing a shot by themselves or disc by themselves and kids are messing around getting in trouble. And then you have high jump. We used to have pole vault, we don't anymore. And so really it's just about that kind of controlled chaos in regards to that organization. But not only that, even the paperwork part of it, right? Like the physicals, making sure like the physical paperwork is in, making sure the kids have insurance, making sure that their grades are right, making sure that we're following up and checking those grades so they stay eligible. I think just all of those things as a new teacher, because I was a new teacher at that point, a lot of different things were thrown at me. And that's how I am, though. I prefer that. I don't really want someone to hold my hand and walk me through it. I'm one of those people that likes to learn a little bit as I go. And so for me, I think that's the best way I learn. Now, I ask a lot of questions, of course. But yeah, I would say that's kind of the gist of it, ordering the buses, doing all that stuff. Just everything was new for me.
Got it. Okay, now pivoting into football, different.
Different, but now it's into my passion. So now it's it really became over the years more about coaching coaches, really, to be honest with you, because we had it so dialed in regard to our culture, our expectations, our off-season work, our lifting. And so for that, like track was pretty much honestly like a 3 months. It was during the track season. It was that auxiliary kind of for most kids. Obviously, there's really good high level track athletes, but for us at that time, that's what it was. And then football was now track's over. So now we're into the weight room, we're into workouts, back then it was just summer 7-on-7. So we're into the passing league, into the fall. And then we would give them until Christmas was over and New Year's was over. And we jump right back into it in the mid January. So really it was just laying that out. And I ended up developing a pretty good model for the way that worked. We had a lot of success, but it was just about more than winning and losing. It was about developing that culture, getting the kids to buy in and really understand like being uncomfortable. You can be comfortable being uncomfortable. It was a really good run, and we put a lot of work and a lot of effort in. And our coaches are the ones that I give all that credit to because they're the ones that really drove that ship.
So as you step out and we're in year one of not coaching, what have you been able to observe that given an opportunity to go back in time that you would do differently, re-implement things that maybe he's doing differently or things that maybe are lacking or are additions, but just as you reflect, it's okay, we started weights at this time. We're doing it in the morning, we're doing X, Y, and Z, but now you actually get to zoom out and just be an observer. What do you think about that?
Yeah, obviously, when there's change, right, it's easy to be like those parents in the stands that are going crazy. It's funny because the last few years, my wife stopped sitting up in the stands. I don't hear any of it. We won state twice. And those are probably the 2 years where you hear the most up there. You're like literally winning every game and it's still the end of the world, right? And I just never even paid attention to that. And I guess I didn't really realize how much my wife had to take on in regards to that. But from the actual like coaching part of it, really, I'm going to reaffirm that it comes down to consistency. And you can hold kids accountable, but you got to be consistent. It doesn't mean every situation is treated the same because there's different variables that go into it. But that consistency over time kind of wins out. And so I think that's something that we've carried on here. But looking back, we did a lot of really good things, but there's definitely things that we could have done better. I think things that we could have done better are probably decisions that I made ultimately or didn't make.
It's always on us.
Yeah, and that's just part of the deal, I'm cool with that. I'll wear that. That's a badge of honor almost as a head coach, right? There's definitely things I would have done different. Maybe like relationships I would have probably been maybe a little bit more patient in, or maybe had different kinds of conversations. I'm always, and I still am like this just in life, is you're going to know how I feel. Like I'm not going to hold any punches, like whether you're a parent or you're my administrator or my student, you're going to know exactly where I stand. You're not going to have to guess, or my wife or my friends. It's just who I am. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but there's maybe some times where I could have figured out better ways to deliver that information.
Like the word tactful.
Yeah. And it was, yeah, yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Coach. It's an area
Understood.
of growth that I work on all the time. And I actually tell people, hey, can you deliver this? Because you're going to be more tactful than I am. Please
Right.
let me know how that goes. What do you think, after all these years, is the best thing you do in your program? And by that, what I look for as a coach myself and trying to coach the coaches is like, what are some things that have such a transformational effect on whatever culture you're trying to create that you would do it if you were to leave and take the job next door tomorrow? Like, we're doing this. And it's not a drill per se, but something that's not amorphous in regards to culture either. Like for us, like we hug before and after each game. Started when I was the boys coach. We actually did before and after each practice. And it was just a way to try to help guys understand, like, dude, it's okay. You can emote. You can tell people you love them, right? You can do all the things that we're not taught culturally. And then when I switched over to the girls' side, it was, gosh, it's a little different with the boundaries. And it ended up coming back in, and it's something we now do, but something that's, important to you that you've seen have an effect that you offer to others that you would do if you started coaching tennis the next day. Who knows? Just something, anything that you think has been important in the way in which you've set up your football culture, your track culture, your athletic department culture, things that you can offer others.
Yeah, I definitely am like a kids coach, like a students coach. Even now that I'm not coaching, like I'm still outside my bio door. I still talk to kids all day long. I still fist bump them all day long. I know almost all these kids by name at our school. So I think that's really important to make sure that we have that connection with our kids. And so I think the student voice for me has become really important in the last decade or so. I got involved in USA football about 10 years ago and was like a football, worked in their master trainer program. I had a chance to meet with Joe Ehrman a lot. I don't know if you know who Joe is, Joe and Jody, and they're I've said transformational and transactional stuff a lot in this, and that really stuck with me. Like I think that too often it's about wins and losses, and sometimes less important about the relationships. And I think that just building of relationships, which takes it takes time and effort, is like the number one thing. I think, especially in this day and age, we have to get to know our kids. We have to get to know our student athletes. We have to understand them. And we don't always have to agree with them. But I think all of those things, like the team meals, just all of the little things like you're talking about, all the little connective pieces, like work together to form that connection. I don't know that there's any one thing. I really try to be present. I try to go to lots of games. I like to be at practices. I like to just go and talk to kids and just see how their day is. I like to make sure I go and try to talk to coaches, and not as a way of observing them in regards to like AD and coach, but more just as a human and as a person, and how I can support them. So I think that kind of stuff for me has really become important as I get to my later years in life in this profession. And so that's one of the things I really try to instill upon some of our coaches. There's a lot of we have senior nights coming up, right? And so there's a lot of emotions that go into that kind of stuff. And I see it a little bit more now that I'm not into the coaching, because I have different conversations with our student athletes. And so it's just enlightening. So I try to take that information back to our coaches and get them to understand, because a lot of them are in their own little bubble too. And that's the number one thing for me, is just relationships. I was really fortunate. I had two really good mentors. One when I was at Scripps Ranch, The late Chris Miller, he was the AD there and the football coach. And then when I came here, Steve Miner, who was the football coach when I came in. So Chris was super organized, super structured, great storyteller, that kind of guy, but really had his T's crossed, his I's dotted. Steve was the relationship guy, the building culture guy. Wasn't the greatest with the paperwork, wasn't the greatest with admin. Just said, yeah, we can get that done, and just we'll figure out a way to do it type thing. And so I think between those two guys, I was able to find my identity and where I fit. And so like I've been really fortunate in regards to that. And so I thank those guys all the time.
Yeah, all of us are sitting here doing this work based on some relationship we had with some mentor, right? Either as a coach or when we were assisting, however it happened. And those, we take what fits with us and we try to maybe fill the blind spots of what didn't with other help. But I think those relationships are as important for us as it is for what we're trying to do for others. I think it's great that we can like reflect back on that. As you have transitioned now into not coaching, as I mentioned before we started recording, I try to get out all the time and I haven't been able to extract myself yet. I am curious. So football, fall sport. So you're competing with cross country, water polo, tennis, girls golf, right? What else we got? Flag football now, field hockey if you have it. I'm missing one, volleyball, right?
Right.
How putting your professional AD hat on, what were the positives for you as an AD and the negatives for you as an AD while you were coaching and while you are now not coaching? And I ask this because I feel like I'm the worst soccer AD on the planet because it's during basketball season. And when I was the boys coach and we practiced at 7 o'clock at night, I was a little bit better. Now that I'm the girls coach and we practice after school, it's been even harder. So I'm curious what wisdom you can offer me or anyone else in my situation where is it good to get out? Is it good to keep coaching? I'm on this, I won't say crossroads, but at this place where I'm like trying to navigate it.
I was a really bad athletic director in the fall, like just 100% like transparency. Bad from the standpoint that I didn't give like the attention to those sports and those coaches that they needed because I was in my bubble, like coaching football, right? That takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. We're a smaller school, so we don't have as many sports. We don't have the water sports. Unfortunately, we lost field hockey when COVID hit it. Like we just never got it back. And then with flag football starting, we realized we're probably not ever going to get it back. That's a tough one for me. I feel like I've been this year like much better. I've really tried to reestablish myself. Now I still met with the coaches. I still talked to the coaches. I still supported them. I just didn't do those extra things with those sports that I should have been as an AD. But they understood it. Like we talked about it. They understood that stuff. But yeah, it's been a lot better from that perspective this year where I can get out there, I can be a little bit more visible, a little bit showing the support, being at some of their events that maybe I wasn't at in the past. So yeah, so
Probably even harder when you were also the head track coach, right? For those years.
yeah, in the track, it wasn't like it wasn't as bad just because track there's so much like freedom in track. I had coaches for different events. So I would be able to, hey, I'm gonna go check out baseball. I'm gonna go over to softball. So I didn't feel like it was as bad in that situation in regards to the neglect maybe that the fall coaches got when I was there.
I love
So
that word because that's what I feel. Like that's how I feel about soccer.
but I did try to have open conversations. Like, what do you need from me? Like to the coaches, what do you need from me? We were pretty good at doing the surveys and finding out what the kids were feeling and things of that nature. So if there was like a glaring issue in regards to not feeling supported, not feeling appreciated, that kind of stuff, we would be able to identify it. But yeah, it's just tough. Like when you have those dual roles, it's really difficult. And I noticed that a lot more ADs aren't coaching anymore. I definitely have seen that in the last decade. It's definitely easier to do this job, I think, when you're not coaching. What got you into the AD probably like the love for you coaching soccer and
Right.
doing that. So yeah, there's
What have you been able
absolutely.
in this first fall as you are able to be more present for the other sports? Is there anything that jumps off the page to you that you were able to observe and see and learn, finally getting a chance to watch some of your colleagues that you never got to watch before?
Yeah, I had never been to a cross country meet or even a cross country practice. I had never like even walked out there and said hi. Maybe if they ran around the track while we were practicing, because you go from films to lifting to practice. So it's a long day. So that was a big one. That was probably to me the biggest. Like tennis probably was another one. Just going, being able to go out and watch some of the tennis matches and just going out and seeing some of their competition. Like volleyball, I felt like I was still able to get to volleyball sometimes because they would play later and we would be done with practice. So I could leave practice, go in, check them out, and talk to them. But those are the glaring things, and just being a little bit more present. I teach bio, so I have sophomores, so I have a lot of those kids that play other sports in my classes. So all the years of them, hey coach, are you coming to our game? Are you coming to our meet? Are you coming to this? And me like, yeah, you know what? I have practice, I have this, I have that. So this year I was able to actually go out and be like, yeah, I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna check you out. And that's been a really good thing.
Awesome. Pivoting. What would you say as the AD 2026 January weighs most heavily on your mind right now? That it's just as you're trying to navigate your day to day, there's just some things that like you can't put down for whatever reason, and every site is probably different. But I'm always curious, like what you're wrestling with.
Yeah, I think truthfully, if there's parents that are watching this, parents have become very, not all parents, but very vocal, very negative, like spectators in general. Like we've instilled, like we have our student athletes kind of read to the crowds now, like at basketball games, expectations of what they want coming from the student voice. So that's really a red flag for me. Just like, why are people acting the way they're acting? Like I don't, just as a human being, I just don't really understand it. And not all parents, but man, the loudest ones get the most attention sometimes, right? Like unfortunately, it's how it is. And so like the amount of times that we've had to meet with spectators and we've had to meet with just the way things that are coming out of people's mouths and just reminding them that we're in a high school event and having to threaten to remove them from games or remove them from the next game, that's a real negative. And kids are embarrassed. Like kids don't like it. And so I think sometimes, and I'm about as competitive as they come. So my kids play competitive. They play, like I said, they play competitive everything. They played competitive baseball, club basketball, everything. And so I know I was probably up there at times, but man, I can't ever remember attacking other kids or like verbally and going through that. And you see all these crazy things that are happening on social media. Like I just get my fear is like something crazy like that breaking out when I'm around. I just don't want that to happen. So I really try to nip that in the bud and try to talk to people. Like I think a lot of times they don't realize the way it's coming off, and I don't think they mean bad, but the way it sounds. So that's, to me, that's a big thing, and that trickles down, right? It trickles down to how kids act, and what they see is what they think they can do, type thing. And so you have to really teach and talk about that. And one thing that we started is a leadership council. We really have that up and running now with our kids, and so those are the things that the kids bring up that they're concerned about, like in athletics. And it's really nice to have their voice, and that it lines up a little bit with what we see too.
Talk to me about the Leadership Council. What does that look like? How did you start it? When do you meet? What's the format? Something I hear from a lot of people, and I've yet to be able to implement, mostly because I make excuses, but also because of the things that are on our day to day that get in the way academically. Every single like community time period is booked with something else, right? And so it's okay, do I bring them in at night? Do I do it on the weekends? Do I do it in the morning? So I'm always curious trying to find my own path there. Talk to me about yours.
Yeah, it takes energy. It's been a really good push in our district, so that's helped. But basically, my vice principal and myself really are the ones that head it up. We have 18 kids that are on it that are spread through all of the sports. So we have every sport in there is accounted for. And we have all eight. We have a few freshmen in there, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So we mix it up. So hopefully it can continue to carry over. We meet bi-weekly, and typically we have three seniors, two seniors and one junior, who are like the three leaders, like president, vice president, secretary. And so they have now gotten to the point where they're bringing up the topics. Our first meet, so we tried to bring it in last year, and we got into let's create all the rules and this and that, and the kids just were so bored or whatever. So we never really got up and running. So this year, Robin and I said, okay, we're going to come in and we're just going to just jump in. Like we already understand the norms. We understand like these are the leaders on campus. So we don't need to talk about how to act in a meeting. So mental health has been a big push. We had a speaker come in and talk to our kids. She works at San Diego State and she works with a couple other high schools. So she came in and talked about mental health, So mental health has been a big one. And then the kids are the ones that have created the topics to talk about. We meet during lunch. So we meet bi-weekly during lunch. They go get their lunch, bring it into my classroom. And then if we need more time, then we can arrange for that if we have something. And we just try to implement little things, right? So a bunch of little ripples, a little thing here, a little thing here, a little thing here, like the reading a message before the game, right? The doing announcements of, we feel like a lot of our kids, especially being a smaller school, they don't know when events are and things of that. So we started to use the intercom system that they put in 6 years ago that we never use. So we have like really quick announcements each day about sporting events or important meetings. And so we're just starting to put in those things. They want to get into like what they would like to see in coaches, like what things coaches might do that maybe don't reflect what they would like to see from a coach, things that maybe coaches can improve on, things that coaches do well. So when we do get into hiring coaches, we have a little idea of what kids are looking for. So those are the types of things that they've really talked about. And it's been really good. Like I said, it just gives the kids a voice, and it's a voice that we respect and we listen to. And not everything that they talk about we can do, right? Obviously, but it's just a good way to have conversation and get their ideas.
Why 18? How'd you arrive at that number?
That's a great question. I don't know. That's just what it sat on. We sat down and talked about, we had coaches nominate kids originally, right? We had like coaches nominate kids. We have kids that are cross sports. They do multiple sports. I think our list was like, we had 28 nominations. We thought that was too many. So we just tried to limit it down, and we just fell on. We wanted to make sure we had female and male representation, right? Boys and girls. And we wanted to make sure we had every sport accounted for. So it eliminated some kids that maybe would have been in there, but we needed to make sure we had the voice from like golf in there or tennis in there. Some of the sports maybe that aren't as quote unquote as popular on campus. They don't get the Friday night glamour. So we just wanted to make sure that everyone was in there.
And it was probably easier to, let's say I have 25 sports, right? For you not to have to hit that because you have so many multi-sport kids.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it ended up being, like I said, that's just the kind of the number we fell on. And I'm trying to think of the name, like the kids that sit here. I would say probably 12 of those, maybe 14 of those. Really, the basketball ones are the ones that don't do multiple sports. Other than that, almost every kid does multiple sports, and a couple of the baseball kids don't do multiple sports.
Okay, so interesting thread to pull. Why are the basketball kids the ones that don't play multiple sports?
I think basketball and baseball, those are your two big club year-round things. They're told from such a young age. They're just so honed into a certain sport. I just think that those are the two sports in our community and our area that really get that pull for that reason.
All right, so back to the beginning of the pod. How do you work against that? How do you, as a guy that has two Division I athlete children,
right,
push back and say, hey, let's look at the math here. I got 83 kids that have played college sports in the last 8 years. 63 of them are at least dual sport athletes. Of those 20 that aren't, 10 of them are golfers. So they don't count. How is that coming up with your baseball and basketball coaches and athletes? Is it, or you just, you know what, I'm over it?
I think it's like in the situation we're in now, it's more the kids. Like, I don't think it's the coaches. Like, these are kids that came in as whatever, as basketball players, as baseball players, and we tried to get them to play multiple sports. We got a senior basketball player who played football for the first time this year. If he would have played football the last 4 years, he would have been a big time dude. Like, he's 6'3", he's 250. He's really good. He's our best basketball player too, probably. In basketball, like, to go to the next level, there's some intangibles that you need, right? Like, it just is what it is. Size, height, ability. Can you
yes,
play
and not to pick on that
perimeter?
kid. I don't know who he is, but you're 6'3",
Right.
250. You ain't playing basketball the next level, at the high next level. Like, your
Right.
ceiling just became Division III basketball. But
Right.
if you're
And
6'3",
right.
250 as a football guy, like one of my,
Yep.
I'll call it the rival school, but our neighboring school, one of the kids I'm close with just graduated from Tech, and he's going to go to the NFL. And when he was in high school, I was like, I want to play college basketball. I'm like, bro, you're 6'4". Like, your ceiling is this. In football, you could be an NFL player. And here we go. But it took that long for him. He still loves basketball first, but I think he realized, like, oh, here's the path.
Yep. I think a lot of them get it like later on, like
Yeah.
they realize it when it's too late. And so that's
He got out there and played, and he got to have that experience rather than wishing he had.
exactly. And he did great. He was good.
Yeah, I love
So,
that. What have you most recently changed your mind on? And by that, the way that this question is usually framed is in an era, in a world in which tribalism and the algorithms push us into validating our beliefs, we are no longer rewarded for having dissenting opinion, for saying, what is that still true? And so I'm always curious with the leadership hats that we're asked to wear. How are we challenging our belief system? And it doesn't have to be about sports, just in general, coach, where it's like, you know what? Hey, man, I was forever this, and now I'm over here, and here's why. It was very intentional.
yeah, I think I just probably go back. I was a super intense, hot-headed, like energetic young coach. And I just think that, I mean, I still have that intensity, but a little bit more intentional with the way I talk to people and the way I communicate. It's that part of it has just changed. So I really try to be a better communicator. But for the most part, the it's all cyclical, right? You've been teaching long enough where 20 years ago in English class they were doing this and then they went back to the old way, and then now here we are again doing it the same way. And so it's just like a hamster wheel going around. But I just go back to relationships. I think that's the key is the communication, the amount of like social media and the ability to be so immediate and find out such immediate information on everything. Like you can't lie to kids anymore. Like when I first started, you could alter the story to make it fit what you're trying to get across. Now, like you better be like dialed in and have your facts straight because they're gonna ask Chat GBT
Oh,
and
man.
AI if it's right. So I think you have to be a little bit more informed. You have to be a little bit more on top of your game. If you're really going to have a hard stance, you better have a little bit of backing to back you up. You better have some information to back you up
That's
because
funny.
kids will throw you under the bus real quick, right?
Oh,
And
I was at
that's
practice
part of
the
the
other
deal.
day and I made a comment to one of my kids. I'm like, we're going to watch the film afterwards. And she goes, camera's not on. I was like, it is now.
Right. I in
So
the sky don't lie. I in the sky
no,
don't lie.
so good. Wow, coach. All right. What do I want to know before I get you off? As an AD, right, we have our network, usually our internal league mates, maybe some of our longtime friends that are doing the job somewhere else, right? Maybe as you go to more conferences, your network grows. But I'm curious as we navigate, let's call them challenges because they're not always problems. Some of them are dilemmas that we just got to manage. But what is something that like you're trying to figure out, you're trying to solve for that you would love to ask somebody else that you haven't really found the audience for? And I ask this again because we're a one of one at our site. We have to go elsewhere to try to problem solve for the most part. And when I was running the other show that was current issues in athletic administration, I would tee this question up at the end, which was like, hey, what do you want to ask somebody else? And then I'll ask that of my next guest. This isn't that. I'm just curious what's something you're trying to work through.
Man, I'm trying to think of something that just really pops out. Not that we don't have any issues or any problems, but I'll be honest, like it's always in the last couple of years anyway, it's always this whole transfer thing.
Mm-hmm.
As a AD, like you want to hold on to your kids, and you know that we talked about this earlier with coaches that are not involved in the educational institution. It becomes solely about coaching and solely about really themselves. And so now we have this world that's trickled down to us from the college ranks and just trying to hold on to our kids. And so we can, and we have the ability to build that culture at the school. That's one of the things is just retention wise. How do you hold on to kids and because you have a lot of kids. I don't know how you are up there, but like we have a lot of kids that will leave and they'll come back and they're like, man, why did I leave, coach? I thought it was going to be better. It's worse. I want to come back. How do I get, and it's like, at that point, I don't know. Like
That ship has sailed, brother. You should have
right,
talked to me
yeah,
beforehand.
for sure. And so it's just like that need for immediate pat on the back, immediate success, immediate whatever acknowledgement. Yeah, it's been difficult for a lot of reasons. So hopefully we can get a hold on that a little bit. And I just think more importantly than just athletics, right? It's just about the culture of the school, not
Right.
just the athletics, but it's the school,
Yep.
like your ASB, your band, your drama, like all the clubs, all of the involvement, because it really is. I think as ADs, we realize like it's not just athletics, like the amount of collectively, the amount of groups that embrace and come together and cross over each other is really a huge thing. And that's really what this whole thing is about, building a great experience.
You said you're 700-ish kids and you used to be 1,200. Is declining enrollment in your boundary area? Are there other schools? What do you think is the why?
Yeah, I think all the schools are shrinking,
Okay.
and we just live in an area that's older.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of young families coming in. There's nowhere to build. So I think houses are passed on to people maybe that are our age, that our kids are maybe already older, and that those young families aren't coming in. And then the ability just really to go to whatever school you want. So we have open enrollment.
In your
So
district.
in our district, but really, I would say for the most part in San Diego, there's some districts that may be a little tighter, but in our district, it's pretty open. Yeah.
Interesting. And how many schools in your district?
We have so we have 16 in unit. So I think 16.
High
We
school.
we have some like privates that are in our conference.
But what your school district, right? So if I was at San Juan Unified and there were 9 high schools in my district my first 10 years as a teacher,
Right.
how many are in your school district itself?
So our district is huge because we have elementary, middle, and
High
high. But in
school.
high schools, we have 16.
Jesus. Do you guys have a district AD and you have regular meetings or y'all just on your
We
own?
do.
Okay.
No, we have a head of athletics.
Okay.
We meet every 2 months. We have a really good core of athletic directors
Okay.
in our community that like we have a text chain, like we're all
Yeah,
in
yeah.
it. We shoot questions off each other all day.
What's the best thing that's come out of that? So I talked to a colleague who is in a school district in San Jose, and I think they have 10 plus high schools and they don't meet. The 80s don't meet.
Really.
And they're all in the same district. And I'm like fascinated because I cut my teeth in a district where there was a district AD. Those 9 ADs were meeting monthly. But like what's come out of that you would invite that district to think about?
Yeah, truthfully, like Scott Giusti is in charge of San Diego Unified Health and PE. He's done a phenomenal job in growing it and really making it relevant to a lot of the upper people. So we meet, like I said, we meet every 2 months, but it's our entire conference. Our whole conference will meet, which is a lot of schools, and then our just unified will meet after that. But he's
So same
really
day. So you have the league
same day. Yeah,
meeting and then you
we'll eat
have
lunch. Right, we'll eat lunch, and then everyone else will leave, and then the 16 of us will stay
okay.
along with our vice principal. So it's an
Yep.
admin and an
Yep.
AD, and so it's just everything from everything that you can imagine. We talk about whether it's home campus or whether it's I would have busted out the agenda, but it's like
Right.
literally 30 things we talk
Okay.
about every single time. So it's a lot of information, and it's good because it puts us all on the same page, at least understanding what the expectations in regards to our job, what we need to do for the conference. So he does a really good job. And we have some
Awesome.
really good ADs in San Diego.
Yeah. Hey, you got some really good ADs, and you're the AD of the year coming up. So congrats on that. It's, as you
Appreciate you.
mentioned, been a long time coming, and now we're here. So
I
I'm
didn't
looking.
mention that. I just say you do it long enough. Sometimes that stuff
No,
falls on
I'm
you.
saying that, and it's well earned. And I was there a couple years ago, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at the conference and receive your congratulations there, man. So thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I look forward to meeting you in Riverside.